5:35 now. It is February, which means it is Black History Month, and we use this time to remember the struggles African Americans in our country faced for decades, some of which sadly carry on today.
LEX 18's Claire Kopsky took a trip to the Kentucky Derby Museum in Louisville to learn more about the history behind African American jockeys in the horse racing business right here in the Bluegrass, and she brings us this story now. It's new on Sunrise.
The last time an African-American jockey rode in the Kentucky Derby was in 2013.
And coming through on the inside is Golden Sense.
Since then, there hasn't been another.
So a mile to go in the Kentucky Derby.
But diversity on the track didn't used to be so sparse.
In the very first Kentucky Derby, 1875, 13 of the 15 jockeys were African American, including the winner Oliver Lewis. African American jockeys went on to win 15 of the first 28 runnings of the Kentucky Derby.
But a few decades later, the narrative took a turn.
Jim Crow and segregation really impact African American jockeys adversely. The same discrimination they were facing in everyday life, they were also facing on the racetrack. So African American jockeys are very prominent to the first 25, 27 years of the Kentucky Derby. But you turn to the 20th century, more urban lifestyle in America. Racing is a sport that many people are really absorbing in their leisure time. It's very popular, it can be very lucrative. So African American jockeys, their white counterparts become more interested.
Due to that change in interest and in culture, African Americans were pushed out.
Number one, just administratively. You see racing governing bodies, they really stop licensing African American jockeys on a regular basis, so that impacts them. And also there's physical intimidation on the racetrack as well in the early 20th century. Jimmy Winkfield, the most recent African-American jockey to win the Kentucky Derby in 1902, when he was racing outside Chicago at Old Harlem racetrack, during the course of a race, his white counterparts would actually kind of ride him against the rail, engage in rough riding tactics that could hurt him, hurt the horse. So trainers and owners are more reluctant to ride African-American jockeys.
Goodlett's goal is that visitors see the broader picture.
I want people to see the rich stories of this industry, of this sport, of this history. And I also want them to see that this industry, this sport, this event, the Derby, is connected to a larger history of the United States of America.
Now, there are African-American jockeys racing competitively in the industry right now, but when it comes to the Kentucky Derby, we won't know who the lucky 20 jockeys are until much closer to the race. Claire and Chris, back to you.
All right, Claire Kopsky, thank you.